Melbourne Airport, colloquially known as Tullamarine Airport, is the primary airport serving the city of Melbourne, and the second busiest airport in Australia. It opened in 1970 to replace the nearby Essendon Airport. Melbourne Airport is the main international airport of the 4 airports serving the Melbourne metropolitan area, the other international airport being Avalon Airport. The airport comprises 4 terminals, 1 international terminal, 2 domestic terminals and 1 budget domestic terminal. It is 23 kilometers northwest of the city centre, adjacent to the suburb of Tullamarine. The airport has its own suburb and postcode. Melbourne Airport, Victoria. In 2016-17 around 25 million domestic passengers and 10 million international passengers used the airport. The Melbourne-Sydney air route is the third most travelled passenger air route in the world. The airport features direct flights to 33 domestic destinations and to destinations in the Pacific, Europe, Asia, North America and South America. Melbourne Airport is the number 1 arrival, departure point for the airports of 4 of Australia's 7 other capital cities. Melbourne serves as a major hub for Qantas and Virgin Australia, while Jetstar utilises the airport as home base. Domestically, Melbourne serves as headquarters for Australian Air Express and Toll Priority and handles more domestic freight than any other airport in the nation. Before the opening of Melbourne Airport, Melbourne's main airport was Essendon Airport, which was officially designated an international airport in 1950. In the mid-1950s, over 10,000 passengers were using Essendon Airport, and its limitations were beginning to become apparent. Essendon's facilities were insufficient to meet the increasing demand for air travel. The runways were too short to handle jets, and the terminals failed to handle the increase in passengers. By the mid-1950s, an international overflow terminal was built in a new northern hangar. The airport could not be expanded, as it had become surrounded by residential districts. The search for a replacement for Essendon commenced in February 1958, when a panel was appointed to assess Melbourne's civil aviation needs. In 1959, the Commonwealth Government acquired 5,300 hectares of grassland in then rural Tullamarine. In May 1959 it was announced that a new airport would be built at Tullamarine, with Prime Minister Robert Mingus announcing on the 27th of November 1962 a 5-year plan to provide Melbourne with a $45 million Australian dollars jetport by 1967. The first sod at Tullamarine was turned 2 years later in November 1964. In line with the 5-year plan, the runways at Essendon were expanded to handle larger aircraft, with Ansett Australia launching the Boeing 727 there in October 1964. The first jet aircraft used for domestic air travel in Australia. On the 1st of July 1970, Prime Minister John Gorton opened Melbourne Airport to international operations, ending Essendon's near 2-decade run as Melbourne's international airport. Essendon still was home to domestic flights for 1 year, until they transferred to Melbourne Airport on the 26th of June 1971, with the first arrival of a Boeing 747 occurring later that year. In the first year of operations, Melbourne handled 6 international airlines and 155,275 international passengers. Melbourne Airport was originally called Melbourne International Airport. It is at Tullamarine, a name derived from the indigenous name Tullamarina. Locally, the airport is commonly referred to as Tullamarine simply as Tulla to distinguish the airport from the other 3 Melbourne airports, Avalon, Essendon and Moorabbin. On opening, Melbourne Airport consisted of 3 connected terminals, International in the centre, with Ansett to the south and Trans-Australia Airlines to the north. The design capacity of the airport was 8 Boeing 707s at a rate of 500 passengers per hour, with minor expansion works completed in 1973 allowing Boeing 747s to serve the airport. By the late 1980s, peak passenger flows at the airport had reached 900 per hour, causing major congestion. In late 1989, Federal Airports Corporation Inspector A. Rohead was put in charge of a bicentennial project to rename streets in Melbourne Airport to honour the original inhabitants. European pioneers and aviation history. Information on the first 2 categories was provided by Ian Hunter, Warren Jerry researcher, and Ray Gibb, local historian. The project was completed but was shelved, with the only suggested name, Gowrie Park Drive, being allocated, named after the farm at the heart of the airport. During the 1920s, the farm had been used as a landing site for aircraft, which were parked at night during World War II in case Essendon Aerodrome was bombed. In 1988, the Australian government formed the Federal Airports Corporation, placing Melbourne Airport under the operational control of the new corporation along with 21 other airports around the nation. The FOC undertook a number of UPG